Welcome to the second hour of the afternoon session here on Law and Crime. I'm your host, Angenette Levy, and thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We are going to take you back into court in Wisconsin for the Chandler Halderson trial in just a few minutes. But first, we want to update you on a case we've been following closely here at Law and Crime, and it's a case closely related to Kyle Rittenhouse. As you'll recall, he is the now 19-year-old man who was acquitted of murdering two people and wounding a third during a trial last November. It captured the attention of the world. Kyle Rittenhouse said he acted in self-defense back during the protests and riots in Kenosha in August of 2020, and the jury agreed with him. He was found not guilty on all counts. And you may recall during that trial, the AR-15 that Kyle Rittenhouse used that night was a centerpiece of the case. And his friend Dominick Black had actually testified for the state and said that he purchased that weapon for Kyle Rittenhouse. He was, of course, facing 2 felony counts related to that and could have gone to prison for up to 12 years had he been convicted. But yesterday in Kenosha County, he entered into a plea agreement, and get this, he was facing those 2 felonies. Well, his attorney and the prosecution got those knocked down to 2 county ordinance violations of contributing to the delinquency of a child. So he pleaded guilty to those 2, kind of basically civil violations, and he'll pay a $2,000 fine. So let's listen to a little bit of the assistant DA in the case, Thomas Binger, explain why the state agreed to this deal.
In the Rittenhouse case, this court ruled that the Law 948.60 prohibiting possession of a firearm by a minor did not apply to 17-year-olds. That is a legal issue that could further be appealed and briefed.
Tony,
personally disagree with the court's ruling, but I respect that ruling. And I believe that if this case were to go forward in this court against Mr. Black, that the court would reach a similar legal conclusion with regard to these 2 charges.
So that was Assistant District Attorney Thomas Binger, who tried the case against Kyle Rittenhouse, explaining why they agreed to this plea deal, which basically means that Dominick Black is not going to have a criminal record associated with this case at all. And he basically said that the judge would have ruled similarly on the gun charge in Black's case as he did in the Rittenhouse case. So joining us to discuss this is Dominick Black's lawyer, Tony Cotton. Tony, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. I think we're all fascinated by this because we all wondered on this network, once that charge was dismissed, what would happen to Dominick? Because if the weapon wasn't considered a dangerous weapon as far as Judge Schrader was concerned, and then the judge is handling Dominick's case, then you may have expected a similar result. Did you believe your position had strengthened after Judge Schrader dismissed that count against Kyle Rittenhouse?
Most definitely. We filed the same motion to dismiss immediately when we took over this case for Dominick. It was clear to us, at least from our perspective, that the statute really in Wisconsin permitted somebody like Dominick to furnish or provide or purchase a firearm for a 17-year-old. We thought we were on really strong legal footing with that challenge. When we saw the judge issue the same dismissal order against Mr. Rittenhouse, we thought the same result would be reached in our case if we were to push the issue further.
What was the Thomas Binger, the assistant district attorney, what was his kind of reaction when you reached out to him, or did he make an overture to you after the trial had concluded? Because we know that Dominick answered quite truthfully under cross-examination that he was hoping to not get a recommendation of any prison time whatsoever for his testimony during the Rittenhouse case.
Right. Well, there's two parts there. I mean, number one, Dominick did testify. He did the right thing. He was subpoenaed. He honored that subpoena and he testified. The other part of your question, whether Mr. Binger reached out to us or we reached out to him, it's a combination of both. There's a back and forth that really takes place in every criminal case. Here in particular, we needed to wait until the Rittenhouse matter resolved before we could have more substantive discussions about exactly what the contours of any resolution would look like. Once Kyle's case was done, I reached out to Mr. Binger. He reached out to me on other occasions, and we were able to fashion a deal that assured Dominick wouldn't have a criminal record. That was really the most important thing from our perspective, was making sure that he didn't have a criminal record because he has such exceptional opportunities in his life. We didn't want him saddled with a criminal conviction.
Thomas Binger had repeatedly called this a straw purchase. We heard the testimony during the trial that Dominick said that, he told Kyle he didn't think it was a good idea to buy this gun for him, but they made this arrangement where he would keep the gun until Kyle turned 18 and then he would hand it over and things of that nature. So you don't believe this was, a quote, straw purchase?
Well, as Judge Schrader ruled with respect to Mr. Rittenhouse, Wisconsin law permits, I think, an individual who's 17 years old to possess a rifle like the one in question here. So I think the behavior was certainly compliant, at least from my perspective, with Wisconsin law. So I wouldn't describe this as a straw purchase situation at all.
How's Dominick doing now? Because I'm assuming this was weighing pretty heavily on him, the possibility that he may go to prison for 12 years. And then, obviously he watched as Kyle Rittenhouse walked free after, a 3-week trial.
Yeah, fortunately, Dominick didn't have to go through anything like what Mr. Rittenhouse had to go through with his trial. It was weighing very heavily on him. Dominick has incredible family support. He's a good member of the community. He's really not a troubled person or somebody who causes mischief in the community. He's got great character, great family support. And I think Dominick today is just relieved to have this behind him, to be off bail, to be free, and to be able to go about his life and do the things that I know he's going to do, which will show everybody in society that he's a successful person.
Does he still plan on joining the Air Force?
Yes, he still would like to go into the military. I know he's a very pro-law enforcement, pro-military young man, and I expect him to pursue that.
I was wondering, too, Kyle Rittenhouse and Dominick Black, as a condition of both of their bail, they couldn't have contact with one another. And I think Dominick wasn't even allowed to have contact with Mackenzie Rittenhouse, who was his girlfriend, Kyle's sister. So are they planning on kind of rekindling these friendships and these relationships?
Well, I know that Dominick is still friends with Kyle. I'm sure the two of them plan to have some level of contact. I don't know where their relationship is going to go. I mean, they've both been through a lot, and I know that they're both, at least from Dominick's perspective, he still considers Kyle to be a friend of his. Now that he doesn't have a bond condition prohibiting contact, I'm sure he's going to reach out to him, or Kyle will reach out to Dominick.
Mm-hmm. And just one last question, so much had been made in this case. Kyle at least was labeled a white supremacist and a militia member and things of that nature. You said that Dominick is pro-law enforcement, pro-military. What is his feeling on all of this, his outlook on this whole thing, and them going down to Kenosha that night? I mean, obviously in hindsight, I'm sure he has feelings about that. Or do you know what his feelings are about going down to Kenosha that night?
I don't. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about what his feelings were. I mean, what I know is what he testified to, which is he saw his community really being sabotaged, if you will. There was looting taking place. There were buildings being burned to the ground. And so I think from Dominick's perspective, everything he did was came from a good point, not from any other. There was no other motivation here from Dominick's perspective. He's not a racist. He's not the type of person who harbors negative views towards other groups of people. I think from his perspective, it just strictly came down to wanting to make sure that there was some order in the community, that people were out there demonstrating in a way that wasn't consistent with peaceful protesting. And Dominick, didn't wade out into the crowds. He wasn't out there doing anything to provoke anybody. He simply wanted to make sure that his community remained safe.
Well, Tony Cotton, we really appreciate your time, and thanks so much for coming on with us today. And we wish Dominick Black the best of luck. Hopefully he can just move forward with his life after this and make some good of it.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate all your work.
All right, thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Hi, this is Dan Abrams with exciting news for all of our Law and Crime followers on YouTube. You can now get the live Law and Crime Network with YouTube TV for all of your daily live trial coverage, legal news, expert analysis, and original true crime programs. Subscribe to YouTube TV today and then locate Law and Crime in the channel guide. And for only $1.99 a month, you can add the network to your bundle. Watch Law and Crime every day with YouTube TV. We put you in the jury box.